afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Finance in Africa's webinar on e-invoicing. My name is Emmanuel Paul. I'm the managing editor of Finance in Africa. For those who may not be familiar, Finance in Africa is one of Africa's foremost financial information platforms. We cover stories and research and analysis on the financial services space in Africa. And we're a subsidiary of Business Front Incorporated, Business Front Limited. Business Front is the parent company of TechPoint Africa. It's a major tech publication, one of the foremost in Africa, and Energy in Africa and Interpoint. So we're gathered here today to really discuss something very interesting, something I think will be very relevant for anyone running a business in Nigeria or having any sort of business dealings with Nigeria. So if you're a Nigerian customer or a Nigerian freelancer or a Nigerian business owner or CFO, a treasury head, this is the place you need to be. So thank you very much for joining us today. And I have with me two of our esteemed speakers here, and they are ready to really deliver something interesting for us. So we have Toluse Francis, who's the head of operations at Countam, and Olumide Akinsola, the country manager for DigiTax. Hi, Olumide. Hi, Toluse. We'd like you to turn on your video for this session, if that's going to be possible as we get started.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good morning, Emmanuel. Or afternoon. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Perfect. Apologies. I'm in a hotel lobby. For some strange reason, the network in my room really sucked. So I had to come to the lobby to take this. So you might hear some chatter around here and there. Currently in Abuja for some meetings here and there. So please forgive me and bear with me. But yes, happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to the discussion. Yeah, it's a bit of let's give a bit of background. So anyone who has done anything business related in Nigeria knows that invoices and receipts are like the base part of business operations. Almost anyone does that. But now we're talking about invoicing. So I would like to start with you, Olumide. Maybe for anyone who may not understand what this is all about, maybe you can give us a lowdown on what this means for us. And before you start, I just wanted to announce to everybody this session is being recorded. So yes, the consent to be recorded is implicit. Thank you very much. So go ahead, Olumide.
Hi. Thanks very much again, Emma. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this session. I'm hoping that provide a lot of clarity, specifically around the e-invoicing rollouts in Nigeria specifically. Also, maybe add some global context here and there, just to sort of get a sense of where this is coming from and what also might be going, given what has happened in other places as well. So, as I said, my name is Olumide. I lead the team in Nigeria at a company called DigiTax, or Namiri Technology, but DigiTax is the product, Namiri is the company. Most people tend to use those two interchangeably, and so we have just sort of decided to roll with it. So what is e-invoicing? So I think that specifically, generally, for many companies who are doing business in Nigeria right now, e-invoicing is exactly new. E-invoicing is just a catchphrase, but every time you generate an invoice from using a tool, so maybe you're using your Zoho books, or maybe you're using QuickBooks, or maybe even any of these other free invoicing tools that you have around that give you like a template that you then edit and put the details of what you're trying to sell and the company that you're sending into and your account details and all of that. Every time you do that and you send that invoice to a customer, you are raising an e-invoice. Okay, it's e-invoice simply means electronic invoice. We're all used to like paper invoices, but now the invoices electronic, which means that you generate them on your computer, you email them to your to the business partner or whatever, whoever you're doing business with, and then they credit you based on the details that's in that invoice. So essentially, the invoice is proof of a transaction, right? So fundamentally, what that means is that if you're thinking about how to track the money that comes into into a business, right? You need to now take a look at the invoices that business has sent out, because for every payment that the business gets, an invoice gets sent out to the partner who reshapes the business's bank accounts or whatever else. So the invoice, as it were, is proof, is evidence of a transaction that happened between two companies. So the e-invoice case just then says that invoice, that proof, that evidence is now electronic. So it is being electronically transmitted from one business to another. That is the fundamental basics of what is known as e-invoicing. Now, when you now think about e-invoicing policy, what that means is that, again, let's take it back a little bit. The government in the country where you are operating, they need to be able to track your income, because your invoices, like I said, are now is proof of your transactions. So in order for the government to really track how much money you are making, how the business is doing for the sake of taxation or tax calculation, whether it is withholding tax or whether it is value-added tax or whether it is company income tax, whatever other taxes there are, the only way to really prove which of these tax applies to your business, also the kind of income that your business has and stuff like that, is to take a look at your invoice. So what is now happening, and it's not new, it's a thing that's happened all over the world. Nigeria has only just adopted it, right? It's been a thing in Europe with the PEPO protocol. It's been a thing in China, in India, in other parts of Africa. Kenya has had it for 3 years. Zambia has had it for about 2. South Africa has had it for forever. Ghana hasn't been. A bunch of other different states in Africa have it. But Nigeria is just now trying to. So again, it's not something new. In fact, Nigeria's e-invoicing model is very similar to, if it's not what has been implemented in other countries, of course, with a bit of local context and tweaks here and there. So what that means is that the government has said, we want to be able to see your invoices at different levels. Again, I'm not speaking to Nigeria specifically. Generally, the idea of invoicing policy is the government says, we want to be able to see your invoices.
Hello. Can anyone hear Olumide, or is it just my network?
I think his network is frozen.
Okay. 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 So probably wait for him to get back. So, Toluse, could you help us pick it up from here? Maybe you help us take it further from, say, experience of a company that has been doing it the traditional way and had to migrate to the invoicing route. So what does it look like? Is there any experience you can share or any live case study?
All right, thanks a lot for that opportunity. So once again, my name is Toluse Francis from Countam, head of operations. And so basically we all know that before now, I mean, for any business at all, invoicing is a big deal. I mean, it's the only or probably one of the most important proof that you have that someone has requested for your service or for your product, as the case may be. And you then have to look for a way to send that across to them. Before now, everybody was using, a lot of people rather were using things like Wave, for example, to generate invoice and then send across. But then how does it then tie to your platform? How are you able to, tie all of that to your platform? Is it even something that you can present to the tax bodies, formerly FIRS, now NRS, right? And so it was a big deal, and then your ability to track, so you've issued an invoice, how then do you match that invoice with the receipt? We do know that for SME, it's been a big deal of work. Your ability to match the invoice that you have sent out to the receipt, or when you now want to issue some sort of receipt. how do you do that? How do you even track the due date of the invoices, as it were? Everything was kind of like manual. And so the idea behind the e-invoicing is to make everything smooth and easy. And that's just to let us know that as a country as a whole, we're also beginning to admit and accept the fact that technology needs to be introduced into whatever it is that we are doing, and this is a big shift for us, right? Because we must then begin to move from where we are carrying papers here and there, or people having to print something out, and then eliminating that lag, So a B2B invoice now can then be sent across, and then you can now begin to monitor. And it's easy for you even to manage compliance when the tax people come. So I think that I remember sometime ago, working with a particular company, and then we had to download invoices and then send to our vendors or our customers to say, okay, this is the invoice. And then when they pay, we then have to generate receipts. None of those, and it was quite cumbersome because how do you want to be a forward moving and forward thinking organization when you have to print this and print that, but with e-invoicing, everything just remains as it is. You're not having to move things around. It's easy for you to be able to, download and present to the authority. So I just want to share from an operational standpoint that, look, this is the biggest change, that we are witnessing, and that is going to be very beneficial to finance teams who are currently managing invoicing and reconciliation. So you then have everything sitting in one place. And if you have a solid CRM or even an ERP, you then can have, everything intertwined. You can design your workflow where as soon as an invoice is sent out, the recipient, acts on it and sends it back, is then, triggered to say, look, this payment has been made. With the invoicing, you can now have your API configurations working perfectly, your ERP workflow logic. And so it's something that SMEs and businesses are beginning to understand. And I believe that it's going to be a game changer because it's going to make compliance easy. It's going to make your business swift. You spend less time doing what you are spending more time on. And I think it's also important that finance directors now begin to understand that they are now co-owners of an IT integration problem and not just a tax filing problem. So see this as an IT thing and not just a tax filing thing. I hope that kind of like brings some clarity to this. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's a really, really insightful take on this. It seems Olumide is not yet back. So before I ask the next question, I would like for our attendees, I would like us to maybe just answer a few questions. First poll, my technical team soon pull that up to assess our readiness for e-invoicing. So the first question is going to be around if you or your organization is prepared for this phase, like this e-invoicing phase. I said the poll should be up very, very soon. You can just pull up your answers to that. I would also like to know some other things like the systems you're currently using for your e-invoicing, and if there are any concerns with your e-invoicing implementation. And yeah, pretty much. So I'm sure you guys will be seeing the poll anytime from now. So Toluse, let's get back to you. Speaking about challenges, right? What do you think would be like the biggest, like from an operational standpoint, what exactly is going to change in how finance teams manage their operations in terms of reconciliation and all that? What's like the biggest change that's like the main takeaway here?
Right. So I think that if as an organization you've not been doing your tax calculations properly before now, this invoice is going to help. I see four gaps that come up consistently in the Nigerian context that I believe the e-invoice is going to solve. One is the inconsistent VAT classification, right? Many businesses, particularly those who offer diverse product or service portfolios, I've not done an end-to-end audit of how each line item is classified for VAT purposes. And so I believe that having this invoicing, you already know what the percentages are as far as VAT is concerned. And you just can, while you just select as it is. For those who import, for example, you have the HS codes from customs that you can easily input into your system. And it's one of the things that we have built at Countam, for example, right, where you select the HS codes and then the appropriate tax value that aligns with that item, that particular item shows up. If you're offering a service, it also shows up what the tax thing. So if you've been having inconsistent VAT classification, e-invoicing solves that for you because working with NRS, you already have what your tax should be per line item, and all you just need to do is just include. So you don't have to do any calculation or start racking your head as to, oh, is this the right tax I'm supposed to impute? And you don't make mistakes. The second one is incomplete or unstandardized master data. Again, e-invoicing requires like 55 mandatory fields per invoice, including the buyer's things, registration details, product classification and unit price and all of that. And we know that in this part of it can be difficult managing data. It can be difficult where you have several Excel sheets that you are managing and putting everything together. But then if one of the things that this system is going to help you solve is I can have everything in one place. You are not having missing things, you are not having inconsistent naming conventions or unvalidated addresses. I'm excited to even say that, for example, if you can get one of the things our platform has done is if you can get the name of the company, the RC number, it just automatically gives you the information, the registered address of that company. So that helps your e-invoicing, that you don't have to start asking, oh, send me your name, send me your address, send me your TIN and all of that. You get my point. So it's important because it then allows you to standardize your data and have everything in one place. Another thing is it takes away over reliance on manual and hybrid invoicing processes. One way solves everything. You don't have to complicate issues for yourself. We know, like I said earlier, that some of us still generate invoices using Excel, or some who are able to go onto some platforms online. You generate it and then you send it from there. But it doesn't feed into your system, doesn't feed into your software, doesn't feed into your ERP or whatever platform you're using. But with these, you know that everything is done one way and solves the problem. So you're not combining manual. You are not running an hybrid system. You're fully online. And like I said earlier, I think it's just the system saying, hey, look, we don't want to run things manually anymore. We believe that every SME, every business should begin to embrace technology to make things easy for you. Why go the hard way if you can go the easy way? Why go the hard way if you can? Why make it hard? We used to joke that in Nigeria, if something is not hard to get or to do, then you don't trust it. I was reading something on X earlier today where someone was recommending a physiotherapist, and one man was saying he recommended a Lebanese to the physiotherapist, and because it was not expensive, and his facility was not sparkling touche, he believed that the person wasn't good. I think we just believe that if something is not tough or hard, then it's not it's too good to be true. But that's the thing, it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be complicated for it to make sense, for it to work for you. So embrace it, embrace ease, and that's what this invoice is talking about. And finally, distributor and third-party compliance blind spot. Many large Nigerian manufacturers and FMCG companies book a substantial share of their revenue through distributor networks that they do not directly control. So if those distributors are not e-invoicing compliant, then the large company cannot claim input VAT on purchases from them. And of course, this then raises question and it puts them at risk legally, right? But with this, you can map whoever your vendor is, register them on the platform, and so when things need to be done, you already have the details that you need to get them run. So I will just say that businesses that will navigate these mandates more successfully, know that their system doesn't have to be sophisticated. They are the ones who will use this moment to audit their processes, clean their data, treat compliance as a finance transformation opportunity, and not see it just as a tax department checkbox, but see it as something that you want to do to put your system in check, to put your processes in order, so you can have a smooth sailing business transaction. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that really, really extensive and detailed response to that. So, everyone watching this right now, you can see our first question for the poll is up. If you are representing a company, you could respond with that. If you are an independent business owner, you could just respond to that. If you're a freelancer, this is also very, very relevant, I believe. So the first question is already up, and I'm encouraging you guys to participate. So we can the session is designed to give us insights now and also have a shelf life beyond the 1 hour we're going to spend here as well. So if you also want any of our hosts and panelists to reach out to you with any advice or anything, please also let us know by filling the surveys and the polls as well. Yeah, so it seems Olumide is still having network issues. So Toluse, we're doing this together. We're doing this together. So right now, I think a question that came to my head when we were talking about this was the fact that a lot of businesses in Nigeria are informal businesses. They are not so tech savvy. Okay, so it seems Olumide is back. Yes. So I think our team can promote. Okay. So yeah, my team is on standby to promote him to speak up when he joins back. So yeah, welcome back, Olumide.
Man,
Can you hear us?
apologies. I'm really dealing with a lot today.
No worries.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me okay? Excellent.
Yes.
I'm terribly sorry. I had network malfunction, and then when that got sorted, for some reason I just couldn't log back into Zoom. So I had to change the email that I was using. I'll sort that out later. Anyway, I'm sorry for going off. I don't know where we are at, but please let me know, Imana.
Yeah. So we're just talking about what's the change. We just talked about what changes companies need to make in the era of e-invoicing, especially for those with traditional operations. But I was just about to ask about the fact that a lot of businesses in Nigeria are informal businesses. Like operations are still very manual, paper-based probably. And I'm actually thinking, what will this transition look like for a majority of businesses in Nigeria, and how do we think we can tailor this to support a lot of the businesses in the informal sector, or are we just going to just wait for them to be digitized before we start talking about invoicing for them?
Okay. Do you want me to take that question?
Yes, please.
Or
You can go ahead.
Is that meant for me? Okay, excellent. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question. So it's one of the things that we've been dealing with, but also to take you back a little bit, the whole idea of invoicing is not new, right? Businesses, even traditional businesses, still issue invoices. They are not e-invoices because they may not be like generated. I mean, we all grew up in the space where people had like invoices in like a ticket thing that they would actually use paper, that was paper, and they would actually use a pen to write whatever was on it onto it, and then they would tear it off and then send it to somebody who would then make the payment and stuff like that. So invoices have traditionally been proof of transactions for businesses since time immemorial. Now, the good thing about invoicing is that there's a bunch of advantages that it has over the previous types of invoices that we've always had. And the move generally in the world, especially with regulators and also operators in that invoicing space, is that we want to get to the point now where people are no longer using paper because that's inefficient and also just pollutes the environment. But also paper is also, can you still hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, but also apart from it being very inefficient, paper is also just not, you can keep paper somewhere and then the wind blows it or somebody just carries it and then that's it, all your records are gone, right? But with the e-invoicing, there's multiple layers of record keeping. So when you transmit your invoices, for instance, to the other party, yes, at an e-invoice, the other party has a record, you have a record, the email that you use to send the message has a record. There's multiple record keeping across different multiple platforms where used in the transmission. Where you can also then make reference to it, which simply is better than paper, because with paper is only just one paper, maybe another copy somewhere that could also get missing. So the advantages of e-invoicing is that it takes us away from that inefficient way of transacting businesses from one person to another, and then brings us into a world where we're now aligning with global move towards electronic transmission of stuff, global move towards more technological interventions in the way that people do businesses and stuff like that. And so, yes, to answer your question directly, a lot of the folks who currently use paper, there's also different groups of people. There are some people who currently use paper also, but there's also people who use paper as invoices, but still use like Excel or Google Sheets or something like that to still, keep their records and calculate their taxes and all of these things, and then raise schedules for those taxes to be paid and such, right? So we're now going into the world where everybody now begins to use e-invoices. Nobody uses paper anymore. It's effectively more efficient. It is, you have better record keeping. You have better trails, paper trails of transactions that's happening here and there. You have all kinds of advantages that you get when you decide that we want to do e-invoicing. Now, in terms of compliance, for people who do not have what we call ERPs, generally, even a lot of traditional companies have ERPs. ERP means Enterprise Resource Planning Tool. So your Zoho Books, for instance, is considered an ERP. Your QuickBooks, your Sage, your Microsoft Dynamics 365, all of these things are considered ERPs. And ERPs traditionally, in most cases, are able to generate e-invoices by themselves. So what we are now doing is that for companies who have ERPs, we build a technological connection between them and the regulator so that every time that it generates an invoice, the invoice is automatically transmitted to the regulator. You don't have to do much once the integration is done. For those who do not have ERPs, we build a middleware, and this is where companies like DigiTax and a bunch of other companies come in, right? We build a middleware to allow them to come onto that middleware to create like accounts using their email addresses, then use the middleware to generate invoices, which are then transmitted to the FRS or the regulator, whatever the regulator is, but in this case, the NRS or the previously known as the FRS. Also, we are also now able to have a record of all the invoices that you have generated within a given period of time. And then you can use that to do your tax filings and generally just to keep yourself updated on how well your business is doing on a day-to-day because of that whole setup. So yes, there is a change that is coming, a little bit of change for companies who are not technologically savvy, who still have to now adopt some of these tools to be able to, for them to be able to use them. And this is why the rollout involves a lot of sensitization, a lot of stakeholder engagement, a lot of trainings as well for individual companies in different sectors, because what you might also find is that there are some sectors that are very well attuned to this kind of process, and there are other sectors that are not so much. So in terms of invoicing policy, what it means then, just to summarize again, because I already sort of described it, is that when you generate an invoice, you need to transmit that invoice to the regulator in real time almost as you're generating it, so that the regulator has a record of the invoice. You also have a record of the invoice. The regulator has built a platform. In Nigeria, it is called the Merchant Buyer Solution Platform or Protocol. In other places, it is called different things. But in Nigeria, it's called the Merchant Buyer Solution Protocol Platform, where, so you have the MBS, the Merchant Buyer Solution on the one side of the NRS. You have people's ERPs and profiles, companies, businesses, ERPs and profiles on another side. So what the invoicing policy then mandates, which is where companies like DigiTax come in, is the connection between the profiles on your ERP and the Merchant Buyer Solution Platform of the regulator. So DigiTax is the transmitter, is the connector between those two platforms. So we deploy API tools and such to ensure that every time you generate an invoice on your ERP, it is transmitted to the government. And there's a bunch of, like I mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of benefits that this have even to you as a business, because your compliance is now very direct and straightforward. The world in which people or NRS, people show up to your office and say they're from the NRS and they come here in a letter to say, oh, you are owing this much in back taxes and stuff no longer exists because there's a record and a paper trail of how much you are supposed to pay, and you have visibility into your tax position on a daily basis, if almost, in fact, on a minute basis or on an hourly basis if you want, depending on your work streams, right? So nobody can come and try to bamboozle you and say, oh, you are owing this much, because you can just tell them, no, we're not. And they can see it on their own platform, on their FRS's platform as well, that this is not happening. Also, so now you don't need multiple people to be in your tax team to be compliant. Previously, you had to hire somebody who would now hire another person, and there's a lot of paper going through record keeping and paper analysis and stuff like that. None of that now. The system essentially ensures that you are compliant, and you need way less hands, putting in way less efforts to ensure that you are compliant at every point. Also, one of the other big things is that now they are mandating that, especially for large taxpayers. So the rollout in Nigeria, or maybe we'll get there, but maybe I should not jump the gun. But the rollout in Nigeria is now been broken into phases. So the first phase is for companies that are considered large taxpayers, defined by companies that are doing 5 billion and above in gross turnover on an annual basis. Then medium taxpayers, companies that are doing 1 billion and 5 billion, between 1 billion and 5 billion annually in annual turnover, and then emerging taxpayers, which are companies that are doing 1 billion and less, right? So the rollout to each of these groups has been different. What we are still chasing now is the large taxpayer cohort. In another 2.5, maybe 3 months, we'll go to the medium taxpayer cohort. And then in maybe another 6 months or 9 months from then, we'll start stakeholder engagement for the emerging taxpayer cohort, right? So part of what the policy says is that you are unable to claim your VAT returns. I'm sure everybody on this call knows what VAT returns mean. But for those who don't, every time you as a company, you send an invoice out to someone, depending on the service that you provide, you add a VAT element to that invoice, which is like 7.5%. So every time you pay, somebody sends you an invoice and you pay them the VAT, they are able to acknowledge that VAT and remit it to the government on your behalf against your tax identification number. What you are then able to do is that you are able to now claim it back in VAT returns. So when you are collating all the VAT that you have paid and all the VAT that you are owed, you can net them off each other so that you are able to keep more money in your business. And, as a result of that transparency and clarity in terms of VAT payments and stuff like that, right? So what the policy is now mandating, what the regulator is mandating, is that going forward, starting from this month, it will be difficult. You'll be unable to claim your VAT returns if those invoices were not transmitted to the MBS at the point of creation. They were not transmitted for fiscalization on the MBS platform. So what we are now seeing as a result of that is large taxpayers who have medium and emerging taxpayer businesses as like partners or service providers or distributors or whatever are now mandating those guys to be compliant. Why? Because every time those guys send them an invoice, they add a VAT and they pay a VAT to those guys. The large taxpayers want to be able to claim their VAT back. And because the regulator has said if the invoice is not passed through us, you can't claim the VAT on the invoice, it now becomes imperative for them to ensure that anybody who's doing business with them is set up, which is a good strategy to get adoption countrywide by the NRS, because once the large taxpayers are compliant, it just trickles down in this way and many other ways to ensure that everybody else in the ecosystem is also compliant as well. So I'm sorry that I went on and on. I'm trying to get as much as possible out because I do have a hard stop at like 3 o'clock. So yes, thank you very much. I hope that answers your question and a little bit more.
It gives us a lot of context and clarity on like the background context and also what the different type of businesses need to pay attention to. So especially the phase rollout for large taxpayers, medium taxpayers, and the other guys. So it means everybody has like different timelines, and maybe for the majority of informal businesses in Nigeria, there's still a little bit more time for them to catch up with the new invoicing rollout. I was supposed to direct the next question to Toluse, but it seems network has gotten okay. Yeah, I mean it's Nigeria, so
Yeah, bro.
it's really, really interesting time. Okay, I think Toluse is back. Yeah, so
thank God.
Before we move to the next question, of course, another poll is up. We want to know from our attendees what systems they are currently using. So let us know what system you're using. Using an ERP, are you still doing everything manually? Are you using any from CRM, whatever, to manage your sales processes? So let us know. For the first poll, we have some respondents already. And it's interesting. We have about just 30% of our attendees are actually fully prepared for the invoicing rollout. And about 30% are either they've not started or they're not even aware at all. And of course, 40% are just partially prepared. They're not fully prepared yet. So that's like an important context to have on our attendees. Right now, we want to know what system you're using for invoicing. So we encourage you to respond to this. For the third one, which I think is also going to be important, is we want to know the concerns you have regarding e-invoicing so that we can make this session a little bit more valuable for you. So, hi, Toluse, welcome back. And yeah, Olumide just gave us like some background on the invoicing and what it means for different types of businesses and the implications for VAT returns and all of that. So I'd like to hear your perspective on what this means for specifically smaller business owners, people who are probably largely still informal and uh, need to be aware of what this means. And from the list of people who registered, I can also see some freelancers, contractors also registered for this webinar. So I think some context on what this would mean for them is also relevant. You're muted if you're talking. Yeah.
Yes, so very important question. I saw a question that popped up, was what distracted me, that the invoices for companies with turnover of 5 billion upwards, for smaller organizations that would like to position themselves, is there a setup cost and how significant it is? And I think this just ties to the question that you asked me to answer. And the truth is, for our own end, for example, we have built it in a way that your turnover exists within that framework. And yes, there's that implementation setup that we do offer. And whether you're a freelancer, which means you're in the service sector, or you're selling the tangible product, I think everybody needs to gear up for that. Like Olumide did mention, it's important that you have everything in one place. Some are using paper in combination with Excel, like I mentioned earlier, but you want to make it easy for yourself and have everything in one place, such that when someone wakes up tomorrow and asks for a particular data, you have it in one place. Nobody's razzling you or bamboozling you to say, oh, you don't have this, we are coming for you, and all of that. So you want to have it in one place. And that's why our own system, for example, is set up in a way that you're able to go to the platform, sign up, and then if you now have issues, if you have data already that you have on Excel that you have been using for years, for example, we can work with you to migrate that data into the platform so that you don't have to do that by yourself, whether it's maybe it's cumbersome, as far back as maybe 6 years, 10 years that you have it, we assist in migrating that data to the platform. You are struggling with implementation, we also have that service, because at the end of the day, you want to brace yourself for that time. There's this saying that says, a stitch in time saves now, make it while the sun shines. You want to prepare yourself for that phase such that when it happens, when people are running here and there trying to sort themselves out, you are just there with your legs crossed. Like I even say, hey, I can help you do this thing. I've gone way ahead of you. So you need to move from manual, you need to move from hybrid and take it fully there. At the end of the day, you don't need to be tech savvy to use these platforms, because at the end of the day, you realize that it's easy to use. And once you can set it up and automate it, things just begin to flow themselves. I know that small business may not have an accountant that is managing this, app that is managing that. That is the beauty of all of that, because it then means that you have a system that, I don't know, those of us who did computer back then in secondary school, they tell you garbage in, garbage out. What you give into the system it gives back to you. You just need to tell, this is what I want to do. You put in your data, you get the required or the expected result that you want. And so it doesn't matter what you're earning currently, what your turnover is currently. The most important thing is the tax people, the regulatory agencies do not really look at that. What they want is, we want this data. Do you have it? And you're able to say, look, I have it, just take it. You don't need to start carrying one file here and there to say, oh, I have this. Oh, when did we do this business? Oh, this particular client, when did they pay us? Because right there, you have it in the system. And that's the beauty of what we have built in our own organization, that you can log in, you can sign up and have everything in one place, run your invoicing. In fact, you know that even as part of this tax now, you have this issue of the payee tax also coming up, and so we have businesses, you have employed people, you're paying salaries, and a lot of people are now agitated, oh, will I be paying more tax on my staff? Will I be paying more staff and all of that? This helps you to run all of that. So you know that everything is seated in one place. You're able to tag your products properly. You're able to tag your service offerings properly. So it is important that we all brace up, prepare ourselves. Now is like when you're going to write an exam, you know an examination is coming. You don't wait the night before a particular paper to start reading for that particular exam. You start preparing from the day the lectures start. And that's what we are saying. That starts now. Get on board now. Get yourself prepared. So that when it is time, you know that you are ready. And all you just need to do is just smile and just say, I know what you're looking for. Take it. And they have nothing against you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Toluse. I think this is a very, very timely response, because from the result of
Is my network or okay?
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you guys, hope you guys can hear me. Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, it's a very, very timely response that Toluse just gave us. Because even from the result of the poll we just did, half of us in this place are still very, very manual and spreadsheet based. We don't really have like advanced accounting software or ERP systems. So I think now is the time for us to start planning and getting ourselves ready for the next phase of invoicing. And the hope is that every sub 1 billion naira company today gets to 5 billion and gets to 10 billion and so on and so forth. So that's actually, you don't wait till you get to 5 billion before you start making all the necessary things in place for your operations with the taxman and every other relevant agency. So, Olumide, I would like to ask, like, are there any common challenges like you've noticed in in the first period of transition and the rollout and all of that? Are there any common challenges that you've noticed that we should be aware of, especially for the demography of businesses that we have here today?
Thank you. That's a very good question. I think that the bulk of the challenges that we've had so far is in education, and also basically just trying to break down what the policy means for each person's business. Because you see, to get a business, especially a large taxpayer, seeing as that's been the focus for the past 7 months, to get them to understand this and to adopt it, you need to speak to multiple senior stakeholders within that organization. So on the average, you're speaking to like the technology team, you're speaking to the data analytics team, you're speaking to the finance team, you're speaking to the tax team, you're speaking to the product team, you are speaking to all these different stakeholders within an organization. And what I've found is that there's a lot of hand-holding that's still very necessary across board. There's also a lot of essentially information and training and explanation in terms of how this might work to a lot of people, both generally from a general, what is the service and what is that like, what is the policy and what is that like for us perspective, and also from a technical perspective as well, right? So you need to think about what are your APIs and what are the endpoints that they need to connect to, and which endpoint maps to which function on their ERPs. How do these things work? How do you generate an invoice? What are invoice numbers? What are tax categories? What are all of these different things? And then what HSN code map to the product or the service that the company is selling? All those kinds of things are very critical and important. And the challenge has been getting people to understand how these things work, so that they are able to then adopt it, and also then use it to the best of their ability to get the best out of it for the best for their business, right? So it's interesting to see. First of all, people don't want to pay for the service. That's another thing, right? They don't care whether the FIS are licensed to you, or whether whoever has licensed you, or whether you are spending money to manage or service APIs, or whether you are doing this and that. It doesn't matter to them. As far as they are concerned, why am I paying money to report on taxes that I will still pay the taxes on, right? So part of what you have to do is to sort of now explain what the benefits are, and how in the long run this might actually save them money, because instead of them paying more taxes than they need to, this can help them streamline the taxes that they pay to ensure that they are actually paying what they should. Of course, this also exposes businesses that are actually not paying enough taxes. There's been, because of the opaqueness of the system, there's a lot of ways around a lot of things and stuff like that. But again, that's just one of the features of the entire policy, to ensure that people are paying the right kind of taxes. But it also ensures that nobody is paying more than they should, and also ensures that nobody now has to bribe anybody in order for them to be tax compliant, because you can immediately see it from the system that's being created, how much you are supposed to pay, and nobody can bamboozle you and harass you into paying 70% to their personal account and 30% to the government coffers, that kind of thing, right? So the challenges that we've seen have been more in terms of information and understanding, and in terms of like a hesitation, if you like. Change is typically difficult. So that's really the key challenge that we've seen, in terms of hesitation for people to rejig the culture that they've always known when it comes to tax compliance, and try to think about how to adopt this same culture. And the solution has just been education. The NRS has been doing a lot of engagement, especially in the early days. They've also mandated service providers to, like us, to also do a lot of education and engagement with customers in terms of, this is how this benefits you, this is what you stand to gain as a business, that kind of thing. And that then helps people to also essentially figure out that, okay, we need to get this thing done, and what is the smartest and most efficient way to get it done, and what is the most productive way to get it done without making any mistakes. And that's where now thinking about which service provider to engage, and what is the experience that they have, and what are the benefits that they bring. That is where that now comes in. But the first hurdle that you have to scale is even convincing customers that this is a service that they need to pay a little bit for, because there's a bunch of things that are involved that help them get the best value out of this entire policy as a whole. So it's been education, it's been onboarding, it's been understanding the policy. It's also a little bit of tech adoption, if you like. And that's really what we have been struggling with for now. I think that if you speak to any of the service providers who have been trying to sell this thing across the market for the past 8 months, they will tell you that it's getting people to understand it and to align with what it means for their business that has been the biggest roadblock.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Olumide. I know we're just 5 minutes away from your hard stop. But yeah, thank you for the contributions. And interestingly, when the poll we just did on the biggest concern attendees have, and it's still coming back to cost. I want both Olumide and Toluse to address this issue of cost, because like you said, there's an education gap. So it'd be great to understand what this means. So to the biggest concern people have is cost, about 60% of our attendees here. Then the second largest concern is what it would mean for their process and workflow. So that's between these two, we have about 80% of attendees are saying they don't know what the cost implications would be, and of course, what it would mean for their processes and workflow. Of course, we also have system integration and compliance, but these are the two biggest challenges our audience are having. And I'd like Olumide and Toluse to speak. So, Olumide, do you want to go first for? Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, as I mentioned before, the challenges are largely education. Everybody is doing their best to ensure that you tell people what needs to be done. Now, to break that down into an answer, what you have is your system needs to be connected to the merchant buyer solution of the NRS so that both systems can communicate. What does that mean? So if you already have an ERP, what it means is that your ERPs have the ability or need to be given the ability in some cases to call APIs. What that means is APIs are tools that we use to ensure that both sides of your profile and your ERPs and the NRS can communicate. So your systems need to be able to call those APIs and send them instructions as to exactly what needs to be done. Also, to get into a little bit into the brass tacks of the technical implementation, there's two levels of licenses involved as a service provider. One of them is a system integrator. The other is an access point provider. Now, the system integrator function looks at your ERP and configures your ERP to be able to generate invoices using APIs again, like I mentioned, configures your ERP using APIs to be able to generate invoices in the format and in the schema that the FRS wants. Because part of what FRS is also trying to implement is the standardization of the invoicing protocol in the Nigerian business space so that all invoices carry the exact same details. They may be designed slightly differently, but they carry the exact same details, and two more details are now adding to these invoices because of this transmission for this whole invoicing policy. One is the invoice reference number, which is unique to each individual invoice that everybody generates in Nigeria. And then the other is a QR code, which you can use to verify the standardization and the fiscalization status of that particular invoice. So there is an app that is called the MBS 360 app. If you use that app to scan an invoice that has been transmitted to the NRS, it will tell you exactly what information is on that invoice and when it was transmitted, essentially give you the details of the fiscalization of that particular invoice. So that is the function of the system integrator, to give the invoices that your ERPs generate the ability to be standard in the way that the FRS wants, and also for the ability to carry IRN and QR codes. The second function is an access point provider function. That is a function that now picks up these already configured invoices and transmits it to the MBS on your behalf, right? So that that invoice that is generated on your ERP now show up on your platform on the MBS. What we are really doing is that the MBS platform is like a plot of land, right? It's like a huge plot of land. So businesses go on that plot of land to create their own offices. So you create a profile on the MBS. So what we now enable you to do is to move stuff. Let's assume that your business, in theoretically, in a virtual world, let's say this is the metaverse. Your business has an office somewhere in the metaverse. You are now required to create another office at the FRS metaverse plot of land. And now DigiTax and other service providers are now supposed to help you pack up your load from that old office. No, not load, essentially, just maybe pick up a letter, ensure that that letter is properly parceled and it is properly put in an envelope and properly wrapped, and it carries the address and all the details of the person that it is meant for, and then transmit this letter, pick up this letter and send it to your office on the NRS plot of land on your behalf, right? So that's really how it works. So that service in the middle, the APP function, picks up an invoice that's already configured by an SI and transmits it to the FRS on behalf of every business. So two functions, two different services, two different APIs. So there's a world in which you choose a different service provider for your system integration and choose another service provider for your APP. Some service providers in this space hold only one license. Some can only function as a system integrator. They cannot transmit. Some can only transmit. They cannot configure which is function as a system integrator. But there are some of us that have both licenses, which means that we can both configure, and then when we're finished configuring, we can now transmit those invoices for you. So that's really a quick rundown of how this works, right? And so from an implementation perspective, you're looking at your ERP, you're calling APIs from your ERPs, you're implementing endpoints that are connecting to different activity points on your ERP. For instance, when you go on your ERP and you click generate invoice, it is something that happens in the code that your ERP was written in the language, the engineering, software engineering language, maybe it is JavaScript or whatever. When you click generate invoice, something is sending a message to something within the system to generate, to give you the page that allows you to now put in the system integrator, and the system integrator then connects to that point of invoice generation, right? So there's an API that is connected to that point so that when you click generate invoice, it calls that same function on the FRS tools and then allows that invoice to be in the format that the FRS wants. And then, of course, when you click transmit invoice or save invoice or send invoice or whatever, it also calls that same function on the API on the APP APIs to ensure that those invoices, as you are sending them, are also getting transmitted to the NRS platform as well. Part of what is also happening here is that there's a whole ecosystem of invoice transmission that has been built. At scale, every company that needs to send invoice from one to another will be sending it to the FRS. Right now, let's say that Olumide Industries, I'm a company, and Emmanuel Enterprises is another company, and we want to do business together, and I need to send you an invoice. And I am already set up on the FRS MDS platform. I'm fully compliant. I have an SI and an APP. Emmanuel, you are also set up. You are fully compliant. You have an SI and an APP. When I generate that invoice and I put your tax identification number onto that invoice in a B2B transaction, when I send that invoice, the FRS receives it, picks up the tax identification number on the invoice. Because the tax identification number is a unique identifier, understands immediately that this invoice is meant for this company because of the tax identification number and transmits it automatically to that company. What that means is that you don't need to now manually be sending invoices to anybody directly again. The FRS just delivers your invoices as long as it's B2B. In a B2C, it doesn't transmit because there's no tax identification number in a B2C invoice. But for B2Bs, the invoice transmission process becomes a larger ecosystem where businesses are just sending invoices through the MBS to one another without a direct interference. And the MBS is registering, the FRS is registering every transaction in all those multiple different ways that they are being sent in real time to ensure that they're keeping records of all those transactions and using that to gauge so that when you file your taxes, they can match those records that they have against the taxes that you have just filed to know whether you have filed the correct taxes or not. And it is also an indication that you are filing the correct taxes when those records match, the one that you have on the MBS of the FRS and the one that's coming out of your ERP. So that's essentially what this means. That's how it works.
Yeah, I think you could actually write a whole book on this point.
It's very fascinating.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Olumide. So I mean, Toluse, do you want to chip in on this issue of the costing for businesses? Like a lot of people are still worried about it. Do you want to chip into what Olumide has said?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, what we have built into our own platform is also to make it easy for anybody to use. Sign up, do your financial settings, register. The vendors, the HS codes are there for you to pick from. And for what we have is a total complete system where you can input every details and run your entire business within there, from inventory to invoicing to payroll management to running reports, and you can even decide to delegate, oh, this is what this person will be doing. You have different centers, you can register them on the platform as POS. So just like what Lulu was saying, you then have everything within a particular system, and you're able to, wherever you are, generate your report and understanding fully well that you don't have to run multiple data, right? Every data you're passing through the system sits in one place where you can run your reports. You have your assets there, you have your inventory there, register your vendors, put them on the platform. You can know if they're real businesses or not. And so easy to use, easy to run, put everything together for you that you are able to navigate the entirety of your business from just one platform. Because again, you want to have everything seated in one place, right? You don't want to be managing several platforms. You're using this, you're using that. So it makes it easy, for you to run what businesses need at this point in time so that they are not having things scattered around and running here and there. So I want to encourage business. Don't wait until deadline. Don't wait until you have to start calling for a here and there. Now is the time to start putting those things together, and then you can be sure that when the time comes, you are not running to get things, you have them already sorted. And the beauty about starting now is you can move at a pace that you are not in a rush, right? You can move at a pace that you're learning things, This is the beauty of this webinar, right? You're learning things, you're understanding what is available, what you can latch on, so you have the time to learn, to be trained, and to train your employees as well as this works rather than wait until deadline. I would say you don't have to wait until 5 billion. Start now. You are earning something as a business, you're selling something as a business, whether it is a consultancy, whether it is service or it is tangible product, you're running e-commerce, you have a storefront, you're shipping things in or out. Now is the time to get things put together. Put in all those data that you have wherever they are, and then migrate your data and get things going.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much for that timely response. Yeah, so I think we've come to the end of the session. There's one final poll that's going to come up right now. And yeah, there's one final poll that's going to come up. And please let us know if you have any questions that you want any of our panelists to answer before we leave. But in the meantime, I would like them to give us their parting shots. Maybe there's a question I haven't asked or something I haven't addressed. But just know that our panelists are very, very, very deep-rooted experts in this space. And if you want them to reach out to you, we can always get them to reach out to you. Also, this webinar, the content of this webinar is not going to end with this webinar. So we're going to see how it's going to have like a long shelf life after the webinar. So we're going to be pushing it to relevant spaces where businesses and companies that need this information will be able to leverage it and get the much needed expertise, because that's what Finance in Africa is doing, which is part of it's part of the ethos of Business Front, our parent company. We're like a gateway, we're like a connector between the operators, the regulators, the users, and everything. So just think of us as that ecosystem. So not just a media company, but an information ecosystem that connects you to the relevant players that you need to be connected to. So Toluse, please do you have any pattern shot you would like to share with us? I know you sort of rounded things up a bit just now, but if there's any other thing you want to address.
Yes. So I'll just say that take what is available, see how you can move your business to have everything in one place. And that is why Countam exists. Go to countam.ng, play around, you have your free trial 60 days, play around. We are open to demoing for you. Is a particular challenge that you think your business is facing and you want to know if the platform can solve that challenge for you? Go there, countam.ng, play around. The quizzes are there to even know what stage your business is. You'll find the quizzes there to know what stage your business is. Play around the platform, enjoy your 60-day trials, ask questions, and we are there to serve you. Like I said, don't wait until it's that time. Start now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Toluse. Olumide, quickly, but Olumide has had to run off as well. So yeah, it's good. It's had to run off. Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us in this session. Again, my name is Emmanuel Paul, Managing Editor of Finance in Africa. Finance in Africa is, again, for those of us who were not here when we started, subsidiary of Business Front, which is also the parent company of TechPoint Africa and Energy in Africa and Interpoint. Okay, yes, I think Olumide is back. Olumide, if you want to quickly give us a parting shot before you run off.
Yes, apologies again. So thank you much for having me. I think what you said is very, very sacrosanct. You don't have to wait until the 5 billion is in value in real time if you are not e-invoicing compliant, because you can't claim back again. You can't claim back your VAT input. And this is because this whole claim back VAT input is not for that everybody. So you need to get on it now, because your VAT input is actually credit for your business that you use to pay off the VAT that you are owing. The VAT that you pay are supposed to net off the one you are owing, right? So if you are unable to claim the ones that you are owed or that you have paid out, then you pay, which is cash exiting your business, which affects your cash flow direct. So you ensure that you are set up as well. And then if you're also a small business, you want to start moving towards that adoption of digital solutions in doing your business generally, also with compliance specifically here, because you also don't want to be in a situation where the FRS goes after you for enforcement before you now start thinking about or start rushing to get immediately compliant. But yes, it just saves you a world of trouble if you just do it in advance, just so that by the time other people are rushing, you are already good to go and you have already started getting the advance being properly set up way ahead of time. So that's what would be my last parting shot. If there's any conversations that anyone wants to have, please reach out to me. I'm available. I do have to run now. So thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, Toluse, for also being part of this. And thank you, everyone, for coming here. If you need to reach out to me, please reach out to Emmanuel and the team. They will get across to us and we're able to further this conversation one way or the other. If you're thinking about how this might work for your business, reach out to us as well, either to Toluse or to myself. Either way, we're able to advise how this will work for your specific use case, because we've also found that use cases are different. But different people, different businesses, different processes, different tools, different this and that. In most cases, you have to sit down with a business to sort of understand how they do their work before you are able to advise on what invoicing compliance might mean to them. So please reach out to the nurses. Happy to talk through your specific use cases and get some of these solutions into your hands so that you can begin to reap the benefits of it. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Sholu. And thank you, Toluse, for a really, really amazing and insightful session.